What's a family secret you didn't get told until you were older that made things finally make sense? My grandfather did not die of a heart attack in the garage. My grandmother accidentally hit him with a car. I never knew why my grandmother refused to drive anywhere and preferred walking. Edit to add. What happened was she was in the driveway trying to back out. He was standing in front of the car guiding her. She thought she was in reverse. She was looking back, pressed the gas. Car went forward and pinned my grandfather against the garage door. He died later that day at the hospital. Edit again for all the people accusing my poor grandmother. I was 6 at the time and I still remember her sobbing uncontrollably at his wake. Almost screaming. She kept calling out to "Hi monsieur." She had to be removed from the room. Monsieur, they had been married 52 years. She never drove after that. She would walk miles to the grocery store. She borrowed a shopping cart and would bring that back and forth. She never spoke about how he died, but spoke about him all the time. She would always tell me stories and ask me about my memories of him so that I wouldn't forget. The monsieur, she would tell people he died of a heart attack, that she had found him in the garage, which is where I got that story from. Monsieur, I think that was a kind of coping mechanism so that she wouldn't have to deal with the truth. She lived another 23 years with that guilt. She was a strong lady. Many years later, I had overheard my dad telling someone that his father had died of a car accident. I interjected and said he died of a heart attack in a car. That's not a car accident. I was then let in on the family secret. That must have been absolutely devastating for her. Edit. You guys calling out the irony that I say it must be bad for the woman too. You're upset I didn't explicitly call death an unfortunate thing? Is that it? My grandpa's friends' kids had wanted a child for so long. Eventually they did conceive with help of IVF. In a tragic accident involving bad communication, the mom left the baby in his car seat on the drive to quickly grab something from the house, and the dad got in the car and reverse crushing their much wanted baby. I haven't seen them since, but I know it absolutely destroyed them. Especially as it was their fault. You don't just have the loss but also so much guilt. I don't know if they will ever recover from this. It's devastated the entire family, and I know Grandpa's friends are really worried about the guilt they're going through and what this will do to the monsieur. My father always talked about how his brother lied to a doctor so he could get on disability. I thought it was so easy for anyone to get a disability check. All you had to do was tell your doctor you were abducted by aliens. Years later, my father had a mental breakdown. He started telling stories about the government implanting a chip in his brain. He went out and got a CAT scan as proof, and he would point to things that weren't there. My dad was diagnosed as a schizophrenic, and years later, he started collecting a disability check because he couldn't hold a job. Kind of hard to perform any job when every conversation, including interviews, veers into the government trying to fuck me in the ass. As an adult, it dawned on me when my aunt mentioned mental illness runs in the family. My uncle had never lied to his doctor. He told that doctor what he believed to be the absolute truth. He had been abducted by aliens. Wow, it's kind of crazy how your dad just never believed your uncle at all. Does mental illness run in a particular side of your family? I know men can be more prone to schizophrenia, but I know in my family the anxiety runs in my mom's side and the depression my dad's. My dad denies it though. Yeah, anxiety runs deep on my mom's side of the family. It took me a long time to realize my anxiety was a clinical issue because in my childhood every woman I spent large amounts of time with exhibited the same behavior. Definitely some denial there too. That a huge number of my relatives on my dad's side have killed themselves. My brother, grandfather, 4 cousins, 1 uncle, and 5 great-uncles, and of those remaining most have schizophrenia. There are usually only 1 or 2 people per generation that don't kill themselves or need medication, or need to be put away. This was a big unspoken family secret. Both my mom and I had no idea until my brother killed himself. Edit. To answer some of the more common questions. Yes, all of the people that have killed themselves in the last few generations have been male. Almost all of them, with only 2 or 3 exceptions, were between 16 to 19 years old. Some of the girls in my family have attempted suicide, but haven't succeeded, including myself. But that was 16 years ago and I'm doing fine now. Of my siblings, my oldest sister was diagnosed with bipolar. My second oldest sister is completely fine and well-adjusted. It confuses everyone. My brother killed himself, and I was diagnosed with schizophrenia, but between medication and therapy I live my life 100% normal. I don't try to hide it, but most of the people I know don't know I have any sort of mental illness. In regards to having children, my husband and I decided to not have children, but that has very little to do with my family's medical history of mental illness, or my family's medical history of heart disease and strokes. It was our personal decision. Both of my sisters have children, and not a single one of them has killed themselves or even tried. After my brother died, we have put a lot of effort into making sure that everyone in my family understands that going to a psychiatrist is just like going to a family doctor or heart doctor, and that it's stupid to not take care of all of your health. Obviously, it's not 100% perfect. My oldest nephew has substance abuse problems, but it's nowhere near the chaos that it was in my family when mental illness was treated as some sort of shameful family curse. Does it affect predominantly men in your family? Seems like you listed almost exclusively male relatives, except cousins. Schizophrenia is more common in males and can have genetic significance. That seems on point. Removed. Phew. Was expecting a darker turn. Glad to know it's a more acceptable alternatives. Edit. Geesh. My highest rated comment ever. Sounds like I'm condoning cocaine. I'm not condoning cocaine usage, as some of you highlighted. However, I'm slightly older than your average Redditor and still have aunts that used radioactive dust as makeup because it was the trend of their time. Also, I do think it's healthy to deal with your evil in a way you can, albeit shouldn't do. I'm more into thinking a Fritzl-esque scenario, and I'd be extremely proud if my grandparents are into some sort of kinky stuff. That'll be self-assuring. From my father's family line, my great-grandfather killed my great-grandmother with an axe while she was sleeping. My grandma, who was the oldest one, raised all of her siblings. She was 19 at the time and just married my granddad, who was 19 too. Youngest sister was just 2 years old. They were 9 in total. I knew my grandma raised all her siblings, but I always thought it was because her mother died from some illness. I just found out when I was 17 and asked my aunt. Edit. Well, this really blew up. Thanks for the upvotes and the kind words. Grandma is a real hero indeed. She always tells stories of how she managed to feed so many people. They were really poor back in those ages. First of all, mandatory. English is not my first language. Sorry for any grammar mistake. It's crazy and sad at the same time how many people have similar stories. I'll try to answer some questions. Asterisk, but why did he kill her? Did he go to prison? Asterisk, he was an alcoholic. Came home drunk one night and had the idea that she was cheating on him. Monsieur, she wasn't. Actually, he was the one who was having an affair and even had a kid with another woman. I never met the monsieur. He went to prison, got cancer and died. Nobody wanted to claim the corpse and give him a funeral. Asterisk, sorry if this is intrusive or offensive in any way, but schizophrenia or some related mental illness wasn't the reason for the murder, was it? Asterisk, I suspect he had some mental illness but he was never diagnosed. This was in the 50s and we are from Uruguay. Mental illness was a taboo back in those days. Asterisk, so did your grandparents end up having biological children as well? Asterisk, yes. My father was born 10 years after that, and my aunt, the one who told me the story, was born 25 years after that. My great-great-grandmother was 8 months pregnant and milking a cow. Cow got upset and kicked her in the head, killing her and the baby. The oldest daughter of the family basically became the mom, too. And there were also so many kids ranging from I think 2 to 17. It's crazy to think about. I can't imagine having to do that. Last year, I found out my dad isn't actually my biological father. He got my sisters and me those Ancestry DNA kits for Christmas to do for fun as a family, and once we got the results, it showed he wasn't my biological father. The fucked up thing is my mom knew the whole time and never told anyone. For 26 years she kept this a secret and never had any intention of telling the truth. When I confronted her about it, she denied and denied, and then once I showed her the results, she finally confessed. She'd had an affair with her college boyfriend while my dad was on a business trip for a couple months. After I found all of this out, things finally started making sense. Her and I have never had a great relationship. I always envied other girls growing up that had great mother-daughter relationships and never understood why that couldn't be me. She was very verbally and sometimes physically abusive towards me growing up, but never towards my sisters. She knew I was the product of her affair and she was ashamed, so she would take it out on me. I was always told I was 6 weeks premature, but now I know she was lying so she could keep her timeline straight so my dad wouldn't find out about the affair. She had another affair with my soccer coach when I was 10, which led to my parents' divorce later that year, and blamed me for it. All of her wrongdoings, she would blame me for. And now it all makes sense. She's a really messed up woman. I'm not on speaking terms with her anymore, nor do I really care to meet my biological father. Maybe someday, but I'm not ready to. My relationship with my dad has never been better, and that's all I really care about. Edit. Holy shit, I did not expect this thread to blow up like this. I added some more text for clarification about a few things. Also, thank you kind strangers for my first silvers and my first gold. Edit 2. Forgot to add thank you to everyone for your comments and kind words. It really does mean a lot to hear such nice things, so thank you. I didn't know one of my cousins existed until I was about 10 years old. Turns out he was diagnosed with leukemia as a child, and I was a very sensitive kid. So my family decided not to tell me until the treatment was successful and he recovered. It would have been okay if they told me as soon as he was healthy again. But I guess they forgot, so the first time I met him, I was wondering how exactly I managed to forget the existence of a whole person. I thought that was going to end with your cousin passing away, and they just let you go on not knowing about the monsieur, but damn, they survived and just didn't mention it. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.